Hello viewers, I'm your host Pratiksha Mishra with another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show with the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence Summit, which announced the adoption of the New Delhi Declaration. The declaration said that a global framework for use of AI should be rooted in democratic values and human rights. At the inaugural GPAI summit on December 12 in New Delhi, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced the launch of a national artificial intelligence mission to strengthen the country's healthcare, agriculture and educational sectors. A report.
12 December 2023 marked the beginning of the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence in New Delhi. The Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence Summit, a congregation of 29 member nations, including the European Union, announced the adoption of the New Delhi Declaration on December 13. The declaration agreed to collaboratively create AI applications in the fields of health and agriculture and to include the requirements of the Global South in the development of artificial intelligence. The New Delhi Declaration attempted to find a balance between innovation and the risks associated with AI systems. The declaration said that a global framework for use of AI should be rooted in democratic values and human rights. At the inaugural Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence GPAI Summit on December 12 in New Delhi, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced the launch of a National Artificial Intelligence Mission (NAM) to strengthen the country's healthcare, agriculture and educational sectors. The Prime Minister also said that by setting up AI training institutes in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, the country is preparing people to benefit from the emerging technology that has the potential to change lives and bring about social change.
Friends, AI के साथ हम एक नए युग में प्रवेश कर रहे हैं. आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस का विस्तार टेक्नोलॉजी के टूल से भी कहीं ज्यादा है. एआई हमारे नए भविष्य को गढ़ने का सबसे बड़ा आधार बन रही है. एआई की एक बहुत बड़ी ताकत है लोगों को कनेक्ट करने की उसकी क्षमता. एआई के सही इस्तेमाल से सिर्फ देश की आर्थिक प्रगति ही सुनिश्चित नहीं होती, बल्कि ये समानता और सामाजिक न्याय को भी पक्का करता है.
India is a founding member of GPAI, having joined the Multi-Stakeholder Initiative in June 2020. The initiative aims to bridge the gap between theory and practice on AI by supporting cutting-edge research and applied activities on AI-related priorities. Speaking at the inaugural session of Summit, PM Modi called for nations to work together on a global framework to provide guardrails around AI. Prime Minister Narendra Modi brought attention to the harmful side of artificial intelligence, terming it as being capable of destroying the 21st century.
Friends, AI के अनेक पॉजिटिव पहलू हैं, लेकिन इससे जुड़ी नेगेटिव बातें भी उतनी ही चिंता का विषय है. एआई 21वीं सदी में विकास का सबसे बड़ा टूल बन सकता है और 21वीं सदी को तबाह करने में भी सबसे बड़ी भूमिका निभा भी सकता है. डीप फेक का चैलेंज आज पूरी दुनिया के सामने है. इसके अलावा साइबर सिक्योरिटी, डेटा थेफ्ट और आतंकियों के हाथ में एआई टूल्स के आने का भी बहुत बड़ा खतरा है.
The first GPAI summit was held in Montreal, while the second and third were held in Paris and Tokyo, respectively. Recently, the EU passed the AI Act, which imposes restrictions on the use of AI. The Act includes restrictions on law enforcement agencies' use of AI. Additionally, the Act permits complaints to be made regarding any guardrail violations.
Manzoor Pashtun, a prominent Pashtun leader, was arrested by the police in Pakistan's Balochistan province on December 5. He was produced before the Anti-Terrorism Court, which handed him over to the police for 7 days of physical remand. In response to the incident, the Pashtun Tahaffuz movement recently organized a series of protests not only in Pakistan but in other parts of the world, including Germany, the United States, Austria and France. A report.
आजादी शर्म करो हया करो मजदूर को रिहा करो शर्म करो हया करो मजदूर रिहा करो
Pashtuns held worldwide protests to demand release of Manzoor Pashtun, chief of Pashtun Tahaffuz movement. Protests were organized in the US, Germany, Austria, France and other parts of the world. The protester was seen shouting slogans like Pakistan is killing, the world is watching, stop the Pashtun genocide and free Manzoor Pashtun.
Release Manzoor Pashtun! Release!
On December 7, an anti-terrorism court in Islamabad handed over Pashtun Tahaffuz movement chief Manzoor Pashtun to Islamabad police on 7-day physical remand in a case registered in Tarnul police station. Earlier, Manzoor Pashtun was reportedly abducted by Pakistani intelligence services. The incident was reported a day after he was arrested by the police for addressing a protest to demand free cross-border movement with Afghanistan. The 29-year-old activist was arrested when he was travelling from Balochistan's border town of Chaman to Turbat. Chaman Deputy Commissioner Raja Athar Abbas had claimed that Pashtun was arrested for firing on police vehicles. However, the PTM had denied the charge. Supporters of Manzoor Pashtun are saying that the abduction and detention of their leader was yet another effort at pushing Pashtun youth to violence. PTM member Fazlur Rahman Afridi lambasted the Pakistani military establishment for trying to stifle the freedom of expression and their right to peaceful assembly.
The Pakistani military establishment is, forcefully trying to stifle our freedom of expression and our right to peaceful assembly, but they cannot stop us, around the world. They can stifle our freedom of expression in Pakistan, but they cannot stifle our freedom around the world because we are living in free world. These generals, the Chief of Army Staff, General Asim Munir, the DG ISI, General Nadeem Anjum, they are responsible for war crimes and crimes against humanity, including enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, torture and genocide of the Pashtun people.
In Pakistan, those who demanded their fundamental rights are facing persecution at the hands of security agencies and Islamic fundamentalists. Baloch and Pashtun political activists have raised the growing issue of enforced disappearances in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in the United Nations Human Rights Council. Even though the successive governments in Pakistan have promised to make the practice illegal, people are still being forcibly vanished with impunity. Numerous activists, journalists and intellectuals have been reported missing, allegedly abducted by security forces or intelligence agencies. According to human rights organizations, such cases have been substantial. Reports have emerged of extrajudicial killings carried out by security forces in Pakistan. Thousands of cases of enforced disappearances remain unresolved in Pakistan.
We want the international community to try them before the International Criminal Court because they are violating the international law, they are violating the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the United Nations Charter. So Pakistan doesn't deserve to be the member of the United Nations as we stand before the United Nations Human Rights Council.
Pakistan is on the verge of collapse, not just economically but socially as well, and the voices of dissent are growing strong. Three of Pakistan's provinces, Sindh, Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, still remain underdeveloped, where poverty and malnutrition are rampant. However, the government does not appear to make any effort to upgrade the educational and medical infrastructure. Time now for Asia This Week. The stories from
agave tequilana, which haven't been grown in Japan ever.
Well, I've spent the day here in Namie-Machi and I've met local people, some local children, and even some outsiders who have decided to make Namie-Machi their home. And my takeaway from our conversations today have been there's a real sense of forward movement, as though there's a new era, a new dawn here in this small town.
Now Fukushima is rebuilding an unparalleled community in Japan after overcoming tragedy. Foreign viewers of Japan can easily identify it. The Tokyo metropolitan government focuses on creating a city that is safe and secure. In particular, to shield locals from the disasters, water and flood, Tokyo metropolitan government created a water reservoir pond and widened the river. Concrete pavement began to cover modern cities in the 1980s. It sparked regular water disasters in the city. Large-scale treatment was initiated as a result of unpleasant past experiences. Typhoon strikes Japan in the summer. It brings with it river flooding and residential inundation. After the construction of the underground big water reservoir pond, water flood damage decreased distinctively. Out of 28 underground water reservoir ponds, more than 20 reservoirs work to absorb flood water and prevent disaster. However, citizen cooperation helps to maintain a green environment and prevent flooding from water. 758 tanks are positioned to store rainfall in the Katsushika district to prevent flooding. It is known as a miniature dam and can hold 26,000 tons of water.
雨水活用というのはやはり区民レベルで進めていかなければならないかなというふうに思っておりまして、墨田区多くの区民の方に雨水タンクをご家庭に設置していただいて、普段使いで使っていただいているというところがございます。
Preserved water is utilized to keep a green environment and daily life. Sanitary water comes from the preserved rainwater. It is developed by administrative leadership and citizen cooperation. Tokyo Metropolitan has a large following of both domestic and foreign travelers. Tokyo Metropolitan Police takes into account the safety and security of its citizens and visitors regularly. Indonesia's Merapi volcano erupted on December 13, spewing volcanic ash as high as 500 to 600 meters into the air, according to the country's volcanology agency. Footage filmed by the eyewitness showed a thick cloud of grey ash above the volcano in West Sumatra. Residents living in one of the villages closest to Merapi were still seen engaging in daily activities. The head of Indonesia's volcanology agency, Hendra Gunawan, said spewing of ash was relatively minor, with his comments coming after another eruption last week that killed 23 people. The 2,891 meter high Merapi is one of Sumatra's most active volcanoes in Indonesia and straddles the Pacific's so-called Ring of Fire, which is home to more than 100 active volcanoes.
At COP28, government ministers representing nearly 200 countries agreed to a deal that called for a transition away from fossil fuels. Seeking science-based solution to global climate crisis, Bangladesh demanded doubling of adaptation funding. At the conference, Bangladesh emphasized on political commitments from major carbon emitters to reduce global carbon emissions. The Bangladesh delegation said that the developed countries will have to play a leadership role to keep global warming within the range of 1.5 degrees Celsius. A report.
At the COP28 Climate Summit, representatives from almost 200 nations agreed to begin reducing global consumption of fossil fuels to avert the worst of climate change, signaling the eventual end of the oil age. The deal struck in Dubai after 2 weeks of hard-fought negotiations was meant to send a powerful message to investors and policymakers that the world is united in its desire to break with fossil fuels. But climate experts and activists in Bangladesh are worried about how to fund the phasing out of fossil fuels in the developing nation.
Bangladesh is trying its level best to phase out. Obviously, it would require climate finance, technology support and investment. We have not seen that forthcoming at the rate that it deserves and at the rate which will enable Bangladesh to phase out on a faster track. It has the pathway, it is looking at the plans, but it is a country of 170 million people and they still need to go to school and have hospitals and they need to develop. So it would be difficult to say outright that Bangladesh will be able to do this in the short term. It could do a lot more if the climate finance was there, if the technological support was there.
Bangladesh also expressed disappointment over the draft text of the Global Goal on Adaptation (GGA) at the conference and demanded a doubling of the climate adaptation funding. At the conference, Bangladesh emphasized on political commitments from major carbon emitters to reduce global carbon emissions. The Bangladesh delegation said that the developed countries will have to play a leadership role to keep global warming within the range of 1.5 degrees Celsius.
We hope that this COP will deliver the promises the agreement make in the Paris and limiting the global warming up to 1.5 degree. At the same time, support developing nations and vulnerable nations through adaptation funding and also the new fund loss and damage that has been formulated in this COP28.
Developing nations like Bangladesh are waiting to learn what the final deal would deliver to the world. Currently, nations are focused on two issues. One is to adopt ambitious targets to reduce global carbon emissions in climate mitigation, and the second is to express the willingness of countries to overcome the climate crisis.
I guess possible transitioning might have some impact, so we will see that in the long run, but for now we have to see what it brings forward for us.
Bangladesh's expectations from COP28 are rooted in the nation's urgent need to address climate change impacts and secure a sustainable future. By actively participating in negotiations and promoting climate solutions, Bangladesh played a pivotal role in shaping the outcomes of COP28.
In COP28 agreement, Sultan Al Jaber failed to meet the 1.5 degree Celsius target, and just transition required more finance. It should be funded. So we need financial commitment to just transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy, and it's a big signal that the fossil fuel era come to an end.
Climate experts have repeatedly emphasized how urgent it is for the world leaders to take decisive action right now to reduce carbon emissions. They emphasize that more time that passes before taking action, the more expensive and difficult it will be to adjust to the continuous developments. For Bangladesh, a nation that is extremely vulnerable to the effects of climate change, COP28 is especially important.
Moving on, Bala Chaturdashi, also known as the Festival of Lights, is a significant festival recently observed by Hindus in Nepal. It holds deep spiritual meaning as families come together to remember and honor their departed loved ones. The festival begins at sunset, transforming neighborhoods into a spectacle of colors and lights. Streets are adorned with intricate oil lamps, creating a serene atmosphere that symbolizes the guiding of spirits towards peace. Devotees offered prayers for the departed soul and seek blessings for their peaceful journey beyond this realm. Hindu devotees in Nepal camp out to stay up all night, lighting oil-fed lamps and praying for the salvation of departed soul to mark the auspicious occasion Bal or Bala Chaturdashi. Tarpaulins covers the ground of Pashupatinath temple, including the Bagmati river embankments. On the eve of Bala Chaturdashi, devotees who have lost loved ones in their family perform this ritual for the salvation of the souls of deceased ones. The festival of Bala Chaturdashi starts from Marg Krishna Tryodashi, the 13th day of the waning moon in the month of Mangsir. Devotees who observe this ritual maintain strict fasting with only one meal that day and abstaining from garlic, onions, fish, eggs and other food items that are said to be impure. In the evening, they reach the Pashupatinath temple or shrines dedicated to Lord Shiva and chant hymns and prayers to Lord Shiva all night long. They light Akhand Jyoti in the name of deceased souls of their families. The next morning, Marg Krishna Chaturdashi, they take a holy bath and start their journey around the Pashupatinath temple premises, spreading 7 kinds of grains along the way.
यो वर्षको एकचोटी छरिन्छ बाला चतुर्दशीमा एकदम मरेका पितृहरूको लागि चाहिँ आत्मा दिवंगत आत्मा चिर शान्तिको लागि चाहिँ पितृहरू चाहिँ स्वर्गवास होस् जन्मिनु मर्नु नपरोस् भनेर एउटा हाम्रो हिन्दू धर्म अनुसार आस्था चलन हो.
The 7 grains include dhan, jaw, til, ghun, chana, makai and kagnu. Devotees walk along Kailash Surya Ghat, Gauri Ghat, Arya Ghat, Kueshwari, Mrighasthali, Bishwarup, Kirteshwar, 108 Shivling. On the auspicious occasion, devotees float the live lamps on the river, which is believed would lighten the world of departed soul in their afterlife. Devotees remain awake throughout the night, campaigning on the edge of the Bagmati river facing the Pashupatinath temple.
ए हामी आज बत्ती बाल्ने मादी बाल्ने रातभरि अनि त्यहाँबाट बिहान बत्ती सेलाउने त्यहाँबाट फेरि अर्को होम सानो होम लाउने त्यस्तै कार्यक्रम छ हाम्रो.
As per Hindu mythology, one's ancestor will have a place in heaven if such seeds are sown in the shrines related to Lord Shiva and at the Pashupati area in the name of the deceased, and family happiness is ensured. According to the myth, there was a trader named Balananda who had come to Aryaghat in Pashupati. There he was eating on the bank of Bagmati. Near him, a body was being buried in a pyre. Bala had a childhood friend named Brishnasimha. The locals went to Brisha and they pleaded with him to kill Bala and rid them of the fear. Bala Chaturdashi is not just a ritual, it's a time for families to come together, share stories of their ancestors and strengthen the bonds that transcend generations. Bala Chaturdashi has its own charm and religious importance in people's hearts. And with that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Goodbye and take care.